I never thought I'd be the guy telling this kind of story. You know, the kind where you discover your wife of 5 years is cheating on you and it all spirals out of control from there. But here I am, typing this out like it's some sort of confession. Maybe it is. My name's Jake, and this is the story of how I found out my wife, Emily, was having an affair with a bouncer named Mike at our favorite local bar. We had what I thought was a good marriage. Sure, we had our ups and downs, but who does? Emily was this vibrant, social butterfly, always at the center of attention, and I loved that about her. We had a nice little house in the suburbs, a couple of dogs, and our weekends usually consisted of barbecues with friends and nights out dancing. But slowly, I started noticing little things that didn't add up. The late nights out with friends became more frequent, and suddenly, she was too busy for our usual date nights. I brushed it off at first, telling myself everyone needs a break from routine. But then, I started seeing changes in her behavior. She became more secretive with her phone, always keeping it face down or disappearing into another room to take calls. I'd ask her about her evenings, and she'd give me the same rehearsed excuse about celebrating a coworker's promotion. It felt like I was losing touch with her. That's when I felt the first pang of doubt, a gut feeling that nagged at me. But I wanted to trust her. I really did. Everything came to a head one Friday night when I decided to surprise her after work. I had been planning a little intimate dinner at home, complete with her favorite wine and a movie. I got to the bar where she said she'd be with her friends, but when I walked in, I froze. There she was, laughing and flirting with Mike, the bouncer. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I'd seen him before, a tall guy with muscles that seemed to pop right out of his shirt. He had a cocky smile that must have been irresistible to her. I watched from a distance, my heart racing as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. I saw her lean in, closer to him, touching his arm as they laughed. She was all over him. I wanted to believe it was harmless fun, but something inside me snapped. I couldn't just stand there. I stormed up to her, my adrenaline pumping. When I confronted her, the look on her face was a mix of shock and guilt. It was like I had caught her in a lie she had been waiting for me to unveil. "Jake, you're not supposed to be here," she blurted out, her voice trembling slightly. "Not supposed to be here. This is the bar you told me you'd be at, with your friends." I shot back, my anger boiling over. I glanced at Mike, who was trying to play it cool but clearly looked uncomfortable. "Emily, what the hell is going on?" I demanded. Her excuses started pouring out like a waterfall. She claimed it was just innocent fun, that Mike was just a friend and nothing was happening between them. I could see the blatant lies in her eyes, but she was so good at spinning her story that part of me wanted to believe her. But I couldn't shake the image of her all over him, the way she was laughing, the way he looked at her. It felt like a dagger to my heart. As the confrontation unfolded, I could feel my world crumbling. Anger, disbelief, betrayal, all of it came crashing down on me like a wave. I didn't know what to say or do. All I knew was that I had to get out of there. I walked away, unable to hear her voice calling after me. I needed space to think. I spent the night driving aimlessly, my mind racing. I felt like I was in a bad dream that I couldn't wake up from. The weight of betrayal settled heavily on my chest. I never thought Emily would do this to me. I thought we were happy, but now the reality felt like a punch in the gut. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a long, painful journey toward revenge and redemption. I spent the entire night driving around, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. I couldn't go home. My heart felt like it was going to explode. The rage was building inside me, mixed with a deep sadness that left me feeling hollow. I had trusted Emily, and now I felt like I was staring into the abyss, wondering how the hell I had missed the signs. I parked in a vacant lot and just sat there, the engine idling, staring into the darkness. It was past midnight, but sleep was impossible. By the time dawn broke, I had barely managed to think clearly. I was still in shock, but I felt a flicker of determination igniting within me. I needed to confront this head-on. I had to know the truth, and I had to make decisions moving forward. I couldn't just let her walk all over me. So I headed home, my thoughts racing as I tried to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. When I walked through the door, Emily was already awake, and the look on her face told me she hadn't slept well either. She jumped up from the couch, her eyes wide. "Jake, where were you? I was worried sick," she exclaimed, but her voice felt rehearsed, as if she was trying too hard to appear concerned. "Save it, Emily. We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but firm. I didn't want to show her how hurt I was. I needed to maintain control of this situation. Her expression changed at my tone, and I saw a flicker of fear. "About what?" she asked, her voice dropping almost a whisper. "About you and Mike. I saw you last night. Don't even try to deny it," I shot back, my heart racing again. I could see her processing the news. A mix of surprise, guilt, and resentment washed over her face. "Jake, I can explain. It wasn't what you think," she insisted, her voice rising in pitch. "We were just having fun. You know how I am. There's nothing serious." "Fun? You were practically all over him. It looked pretty serious to me." I fired back, the anger bubbling up again. Every word felt like a punch, but I couldn't stop. "Were you sleeping with him?" She hesitated, her eyes darting away. "No, I mean not really. It was just flirting." Her excuses felt so flimsy, like cobwebs that could be brushed aside with a single motion. I could see she was struggling to find a way out of this. Her demeanor shifted from defensive to desperate, and that made my blood boil even more. "Just flirting, that's your excuse. How many times do you need to flirt before it turns into something more? You're lying to me and you know it." I yelled, my voice echoing through the empty house. "Jake, please, I was just caught up in the moment. You know how it is. Sometimes it's just exciting to get attention," she pleaded. There was a hint of anger in her voice now, as if I was the one being unreasonable. "Exciting? What about our marriage? What about us?" I shouted. "Have you even thought about how this affects me?" Her expression shifted again, annoyance bubbling beneath the surface. "You're overreacting. It's not like I'm the only one who's ever had a little fun. You're always so serious." She snapped back, a bitter edge in her tone. Each of her words felt like a slap. That's when it hit me, the realization that she wasn't just cheating on me. She was dismissing my feelings and trying to turn the blame back on me. It felt like a cruel twist of the knife. I stood there, seething with anger, my heart racing. I was living through one of the most painful moments of my life, and she was acting like it was some innocent misunderstanding. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "I don't think this is something we can just brush off. I can't pretend that nothing happened," I said, my voice quieter now. The fight had drained me, leaving me feeling exhausted and defeated. "I need time to think about what I want to do." Emily opened her mouth to protest, but I cut her off. "I need space. I can't be around you right now." I turned and walked away again, this time heading to our bedroom. I slammed the door behind me, the sound echoing through the house like a thunderclap. As I sat on the edge of the bed, I felt utterly shattered. My heart felt heavy and thoughts raced through my mind. I had loved her, but now that love felt tainted. I couldn't shake the image of her with Mike, laughing, touching, being everything I thought she only shared with me. I needed a plan, a way to regain control of my life. The idea of revenge started creeping in. I didn't want to stay with her, but I sure as hell didn't want her to get away unscathed. I thought about Mike and how he had crossed a line I never thought anyone would. It felt wrong, but part of me wanted to make sure he paid for what he had done. As the day wore on, I began to formulate a plan. I started thinking about how I could ensure that Emily's nights out would never be the same again. I couldn't let her waltz back into that bar like nothing had happened. She needed to face the consequences of her actions, and I was going to make sure of it. After the confrontation with Emily, I spent the next few days in a haze. My mind was consumed by a mix of anger, sadness, and a fierce desire for vengeance. I was determined to make sure that Mike would pay for what he had done, but I also knew I had to be strategic about it. Revenge isn't just about acting on impulse. It's about making sure your target feels the impact of their actions. I began by doing my research. I learned everything I could about the bar where Emily and Mike hung out, the clientele, and the staff. It was a popular spot, known for its lively atmosphere and, apparently, for its bouncers who were not only tough, but also had a reputation for flirting with the women. I needed to get close to the right people to make my plan work. I went in during off-peak hours, pretending to be a regular customer. I struck up conversations with the bartenders and other staff, trying to gather intel without raising any suspicion. I was friendly and charming, and it didn't take long for them to warm up to me. They shared stories about their experiences, including how Mike had a reputation that went beyond just being a bouncer. Everyone seemed to know about his antics and how he loved to flirt with the female patrons. Armed with this knowledge, I decided to turn the heat up on my plan. I made friends with one of the bartenders, a guy named Alex, who was particularly talkative. I told him about my relationship troubles, framing it as if I was just a guy heartbroken over a cheating wife. Alex was sympathetic, and I could see the wheels turning in his head as he realized that if he helped me, he could earn some good karma. "Look, man," Alex said one night as we were closing up, "I've seen Mike get handsy with girls before. It's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. If you want me to, I can talk to the manager about him. It wouldn't be the first time someone complained about his behavior." That was music to my ears. I knew I could use this to my advantage. "I'd appreciate that, man. Just make sure it sounds credible. I don't want it to look like I'm trying to get him fired for personal reasons," I replied, my mind racing with possibilities. Over the next few weeks, I kept up my facade as the heartbroken husband while slowly feeding Alex information about Mike and how he had been flirting with Emily. I told him about the incident I witnessed and how it had devastated me. I could see the anger in Alex's eyes as he listened, and it fueled my ambitions even more. By the time I felt ready to execute my plan, I had gathered enough intel to make a solid case against Mike. I learned that there had been other complaints about him, but nothing had ever been done. I knew that if I could bring those complaints to light, alongside my story about Emily, it would be enough to get him suspended or even fired. With everything in place, I decided to make my move. I called in a favor from Alex, asking him to arrange a meeting with the bar's manager. I wanted to be there, too. I needed to see Mike's face when the news hit. It was going to be glorious. The day finally came when I walked into the bar, my heart pounding with excitement. I spotted Mike at the entrance, his cocky attitude still intact, unaware that his world was about to come crashing down. I felt a rush of satisfaction knowing that soon he wouldn't be able to strut around like he owned the place anymore. As I entered the office with Alex and the manager, I could feel the tension in the air. "I just wanted to bring to your attention some concerns I've had regarding Mike's behavior," I started, my voice steady but laced with a hint of satisfaction. Alex chimed in, recounting stories of Mike's flirtatious behavior and how it had made some patrons uncomfortable. I could see the manager's expression shift from indifference to concern as Alex laid out the details. The manager started taking notes, his brow furrowed in thought. Then it was my turn. I saw him with my wife, and it was more than just harmless flirting. She was clearly uncomfortable, and it's not the first time I've heard complaints about him. "It's been a pattern," I said, trying to keep my tone as calm as possible. The manager leaned back in his chair, looking contemplative. "I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. We take these matters seriously. I'll have to investigate further," he replied, his tone indicating he was taking me seriously. The moment felt surreal. I was finally in control of the narrative. I could see Mike standing outside, oblivious to the storm brewing. There was a part of me that felt a twinge of guilt, but it quickly dissipated as I thought about the betrayal I had endured. I had every right to see him face consequences. After our meeting, I couldn't help but feel a rush of adrenaline. I waited for Mike to come back into the bar, curious to see how he would react to the news. When he walked back in, I caught his eye. I could see the confidence falter for just a second. It was a small victory, but it felt so satisfying. Within days, I received a call from Alex. "Jake, they fired Mike. He's no longer working here," he said, a hint of excitement in his voice. I couldn't help but grin. The first part of my revenge was complete and it felt good, but I knew that the battle wasn't over yet. I still had to deal with Emily. She had no idea what was coming. I had just started to uncover the darker parts of our relationship, and now it was time to make sure she faced the consequences too. The exhilaration of Mike being fired was bittersweet. It was a rush, but the satisfaction was short-lived. I knew I couldn't just stop there. Emily still had to face the music, and I wanted her to truly understand the depth of her betrayal. It wasn't just about Mike anymore. It was about our entire relationship, the trust that had been shattered, and the impact her infidelity had on my life. I let a few days pass after Mike's firing, wanting to let the dust settle a bit. I had to tread carefully. I didn't want to give Emily any hints about what I was planning. I wanted her to think she had gotten away with things, that the worst was behind her. I also needed to gather the strength to confront her again. When I finally built up the courage to talk to her, I chose a quiet evening at home. I had prepared myself for this moment, rehearsing what I wanted to say in my mind. I needed her to realize the full weight of what she had done. I wanted her to feel the loss of control just as I had. "Emily, can we talk?" I called out, finding her in the living room scrolling through her phone. She looked up, a hint of anxiety flickering across her face. She nodded, but I could tell she was on edge. "Sure, what's up?" she replied, trying to sound casual, but I could see through the act. I took a deep breath and sat down across from her. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened recently, about us, about what you did with Mike." Her expression hardened, and I could see her preparing to defend herself. "Jake, I told you it was a mistake. I was just having fun. You have to believe me," she pleaded, her eyes wide with a mix of panic and defiance. "Having fun? You think it's just fun to betray your husband, to throw away the love we built together?" I shot back, my voice steady but laced with emotion. "You realize how much you've hurt me." She opened her mouth to respond, but I raised a hand to stop her. "No, listen. I need you to understand that this isn't just about Mike. It's about you and your choices. You made a decision to betray me, and I can't just forget that." "Jake, please, I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, tears welling in her eyes now. "I didn't think it would go this far. It was just a few drinks and some flirting. Flirting that led to you getting all cozy with him. It didn't stop there, did it?" I pressed, my voice low and intense. "What were you thinking? Did you ever stop to consider how I would feel, how this could destroy everything we've built?" Her face fell, and I could see the guilt washing over her, but I didn't want her to get off easy. I needed her to feel the weight of her actions. "I want you to know that I've taken steps to ensure Mike isn't going to have a place to flirt with anyone anymore. I've made sure he's gone, and I won't allow him to come back into your life. Not ever." She looked at me, confusion furrowing her brow. "What do you mean?" "I went to the bar, Emily. I spoke to the manager. They've fired him. He won't ever be able to work there again," I said, my voice calm but firm. "And this is just the beginning. You need to realize that your actions have consequences." She gasped, her hands flying to her mouth as her eyes widened. "You did what? You can't be serious." Her voice was incredulous, a mix of panic and disbelief. "Oh, I'm very serious," I said, leaning in closer. "You thought you could just flirt and play games with someone else's feelings and not face any repercussions. I won't let that happen." Emily's expression shifted from disbelief to anger. "So this is how you're going to handle it? By sabotaging everything around me? You think this will fix our marriage? You're being petty." She snapped, the defensiveness rising in her voice. "Petty? No, I'm being deliberate. I'm making sure you understand that you can't just throw around your affections and then waltz back into my life like nothing happened." I argued back, my voice rising. She started to cry, and while part of me felt a flash of sympathy, I quickly pushed it aside. "I loved you, Emily. I trusted you. And you threw it all away for some cheap thrills with a guy who doesn't give a damn about you." I continued, my heart aching but my resolve firm. "No, you're wrong," she cried, desperation evident in her voice. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just caught up in the moment. I thought you understood me. You never let me have any fun anymore." "Fun? Is that what this was? You think cheating is just fun?" I reiterated, the disbelief evident in my tone. "You've stripped away any chance for us to have a future together. You've taken the trust we built and shattered it into a million pieces." She looked at me, the tears continuing to flow, her face a mix of anger and regret. I could see she was struggling with her emotions, but I wasn't going to back down. "You need to reflect on what you've done. This isn't just going to blow over. I'm serious about this, and I'm not going to let you manipulate me into feeling sorry for you." The silence hung between us like a heavy weight. I could see Emily trying to process everything, but I didn't want to give her any more chances. "I need time to think about what I want, but make no mistake, things are going to change between us. I won't forget how you treated me, and I won't forgive easily." With that, I stood up and walked away, leaving her sitting there, tears streaming down her face. I felt a mix of anger and satisfaction. I knew I had made my point, but there was still a lingering sense of loss inside me. This wasn't just about revenge. It felt like I was tearing away at the fabric of my own heart in the process. As the days passed, I prepared myself for what lay ahead. I knew I had to either find a way to rebuild or take the final steps toward ending things entirely. This wasn't just about Mike anymore. It was about Emily's betrayal and the long road of healing that lay ahead. As the days turned into weeks, the atmosphere in the house shifted dramatically. It felt like I was living with a stranger. Emily walked around with a heavy heart, the weight of her betrayal hanging in the air like a dark cloud. I kept my distance, allowing her space to reflect on what she had done while maintaining a steely resolve of my own. I wasn't ready to let my guard down. Every time I glanced at her, I felt that familiar pang of anger mixed with hurt. I had always thought of us as a partnership, and now it felt like she had dismantled our lives for a fleeting thrill. I didn't know how to process it. I was both furious and heartbroken, and every moment we spent in the same room felt like a reminder of that betrayal. Emily tried reaching out to me multiple times, but I remained distant. She would attempt to engage me in conversation, asking about my day or trying to bring up lighter topics, but I wasn't ready to dive back into the superficiality of our previous interactions. I needed to make her understand the depth of her actions and the hurt they caused. One evening, as I returned home from work, I found her sitting on the couch, her face pale and drawn. She looked up at me with a mixture of fear and determination. "Jake, I need to talk to you," she said, her voice shaky. I paused at the threshold, crossing my arms. "About what?" "I know that things have been tense and I understand why you're upset," she began, her eyes searching mine for any sign of softness. "But I want to really talk about us, about what happened and how we can move forward." I nodded but didn't say anything. I wanted to hear what she had to say, but I wasn't ready to let her off the hook. She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "I've had time to think," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "I made a mistake, I know that. I never intended to hurt you. It was a moment of weakness. I realize now how reckless I was, and I can't believe I let it get to that point." I clenched my jaw, holding back the anger that threatened to bubble over. "You don't get to just brush this off as a mistake, Emily. You chose to cheat. You made that decision repeatedly." "Wasn't just a one-time thing," I replied, my voice steady but stern. She flinched at my words, and I could see the fight in her begin to wane. I know," she exclaimed, her voice rising slightly. "I was stupid and selfish, but I want to make it right if you'll let me. I miss what we had." "What we had? You mean the trust we had, the love we built together?" I pressed, feeling my heart race with resentment. "You shattered that, Emily, and now you want to pretend like it didn't happen." "I don't want to pretend, I want to fix this," she shot back, tears welling in her eyes. "I love you, Jake. I made a terrible choice, but I want to prove I can be better. I can't lose you over this." "Love isn't enough to erase betrayal," I said, feeling the weight of her words sinking in. I wanted to believe her, but everything was still so raw. "You need to understand that your actions have consequences, and I don't know if I can just forget what you've done." "Then let me show you," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I'll do whatever it takes. I'll cut ties with anyone who makes you uncomfortable. I won't go out without you anymore. Please just give me a chance to make this right." I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but there was still a part of me that felt hardened. Trust didn't come easily after it had been broken. "It's going to take more than promises, Emily. It's going to take time, and I don't know if I'm ready to be that vulnerable again." "I understand," she said softly, her shoulders slumping in defeat. "Just give me a chance to show you I can change. Let me prove to you that I can be the wife you deserve." As I looked at her, I felt a wave of conflicting emotions crash over me. I had loved this woman, I had built my life around her. But now I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure whether to leap into the unknown or step back and protect myself. "I need time," I said finally, my voice steady but filled with hesitation. "I can't promise you anything right now. But if you're serious about wanting to make things right, then I'll need to see you put in the effort. You need to understand that this isn't going to be easy." She nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. "I will. I'll do whatever it takes. I just want you back, Jake." I watched her for a moment, assessing whether I could believe her. It was hard to let my guard down, to even think about reestablishing what we had. but maybe there was a glimmer of hope buried beneath the rubble of our shattered trust. The following weeks were filled with a tension I hadn't experienced before. Emily worked hard to prove herself, cutting off contact with anyone associated with the bar and making an effort to engage in deep conversations about our relationship. I appreciated her attempts, but it didn't erase the pain that lingered beneath the surface. However, I also noticed something else happening. As she made these changes, my anger began to soften. I could see the genuine remorse in her eyes, and I found myself letting her back in, piece by piece. We started having date nights again, slowly trying to rebuild the intimacy we once shared, but there was always that nagging feeling that I had to keep one foot out the door, just in case. I still couldn't shake the memories of her betrayal, and I knew deep down that it was going to take more than just time to heal. I was still grappling with the idea of whether I could truly forgive her or if it was time to move on altogether. I decided that I needed to take a step back and evaluate my own feelings. It was clear I was at a crossroads, and I had to figure out if our love was strong enough to withstand this, or if it was time to finally let go. The weeks turned into months, and slowly but surely, Emily and I began to carve out a new rhythm in our lives. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments when the memories of her infidelity would creep into my mind, but I was determined to give her a chance to prove herself. She had committed to changing, and I wanted to see if we could rebuild what had been lost. Emily took her promise seriously. She made an effort to reconnect with me on a deeper level. We started going to couples therapy, where we could confront the raw emotions head-on in a safe space. I poured out my feelings, relaying the pain, the betrayal, and the fear of being hurt again. Emily listened intently, her eyes often filled with tears. In those sessions, I could see how far she had come in acknowledging her actions and the hurt they caused. As time passed, I found myself wrestling with my feelings. The anger that once consumed me began to fade, replaced by a cautious hope. We had moments where laughter returned, where I could almost forget the past, but there were also nights when I'd wake up in a cold sweat, haunted by nightmares of her betrayal. One night, as we were sitting on the couch watching a movie, she leaned her head on my shoulder. It felt familiar and comforting, and for the first time in a long time I didn't feel the need to draw away. I wrapped my arm around her, feeling her warmth against me. It was a small moment, but it felt significant, like a step toward healing. But deep down, a part of me still wondered if I was just going through the motions. Was I really ready to forgive? Could I ever fully trust her again? I decided it was time to take a hard look at my own emotions. I needed clarity. One evening after work, I took a walk to clear my mind. As I walked through the park, I replayed everything in my head: the betrayal, the confrontation, the months of therapy, and the small victories we had achieved together. I sat on a bench and breathed in the cool evening air, contemplating the future. When I returned home that night, Emily was waiting for me, her eyes filled with concern. "You've been quiet lately. Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice laced with worry. I sat down across from her, taking my time to gather my thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything that's happened," I began cautiously. "I want you to know that I see the effort you're putting in and I appreciate it, but I also need to be honest, I'm still struggling with trust." Her expression softened and she nodded. "I understand. I know it's going to take time. I'm willing to put in the work and I hope you can too." I took a deep breath. "I want to try, Emily, but I need to know that you're committed to this completely. No more secrets, no more games. I can't go through this again. I won't." "Absolutely. I promise," she said earnestly, her eyes locking onto mine. "I love you, Jake. I'm here for you. I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust." As I looked into her eyes, I saw the vulnerability and sincerity. I realized that while I couldn't erase the past, I could choose to embrace the future. I needed to let go of the anger and the resentment, or it would continue to poison our relationship. "I'm willing to try," I said slowly. "But it won't be easy, and we're going to have to be honest with each other every step of the way." With that, we began a new chapter of our lives together. There were times when it felt shaky, the ground beneath us unsteady as we navigated this new reality. But through open communication and a commitment to healing, we found a way to grow. It was a long road, but one we were willing to walk together. In the end, I learned a lot about love, trust, and forgiveness. It was messy, complicated, and sometimes painful, but it was also beautiful in its own way. I discovered that relationships require effort, vulnerability, and sometimes a second chance. As we sat together on the couch that night, I felt hope blossoming within me. I knew we still had work to do, but as I held Emily close, I realized that maybe, just maybe, we could emerge from the darkness stronger than before. And that's a lesson I would carry with me for the rest of my life.